Hello everyone, I'm Ishani and welcome for this new video which is also a giveaway. Today we're going to create something beautiful with the Altenew Craft Your Life kit Whispers in the Canopy. I love this kit and we are going to do some stamping techniques including Jacob's coat and resist stamping, or you can call it emboss resist. Let's go ahead and first check out the kit. The first thing that we have are these dies, Whisper in the Canopy die set, which has two different bird houses and two cute birds. I'm going to majorly use this die set today. Next, we have this beautiful embossing folder with coordinating stencils that is going to create gorgeous cards. But for this video, I'm going to skip these two, maybe for the other time, or maybe you can check my previous videos where I do create techniques with the embossing folders. Next is this stamp set. Oh my god, I love the stamp set and I'm going to majorly use this stamp set for all our techniques today. So for my first card, I'm going to start with stamping. The stamping is the hero for this whole video. When you open your stamp set, you have beautiful inspiration inside. You can check that out and go ahead and coordinate your previous birds from Altenew and use them to get most out of your supplies. The first thing that we have to do is condition our stamp. This is the first time I'm going to stamp with my new stamp. So I am just rubbing my fingers over it. You can also get conditioning erasers and condition your stamp before you start stamping. I take my stamp wheel and this is a watercolor paper. I have not cut it to the A2 size. I'm going to later trim it off, seeing which is the better portion to cut out. Okay, now I start with adding some anti-static powder onto my surface on this because we are going to do some heat embossing, for which I have taken this Obsidian Pigment Black ink by Altenew and I'm going to stamp it on my watercolor paper. Because the paper is a little textured, we need to do a little more stamping to get the perfect image. That's why a stamping platform like a stamp wheel is perfect for such stamping. I am required to do a little more than usual and maybe my ink pad needs some more ink and it's dried up. Yes, I must do it next. So now that I have a beautiful image of my silhouette birds and the leaves, now it's time, while my ink is wet, I'm going to add clear embossing powder. This is Crystal Clear by Altenew. You can use any clear embossing powder, but this is a good embossing powder. It gives clean edges and the rays of the embossing is beautiful too. Now after I have heat embossed my image and I have all that black ink trapped with my clear embossing powder, we can do some emboss resist. And for that, I'm using watercolors. Watercolors are the easiest way to do emboss resist. You can go ahead and use your beautiful dye inks and do some beautiful ink blending for an evening or a morning sunset or sunrise scenes. But I'm going to add some very basic colors and create a twilight scene. So first I wet my watercolor cardstock with some water. I just spray some water over it and then with just three colors, I'm using purple, pink and orange, and I am just creating some washes around my paper to give a look of that twilight where you have all the birds returning back and perched on the branches, getting ready to sleep probably. So do you see what is happening here? The embossing is resisting all the color and that's why this is emboss resist. And there is no proper way to get your watercolors, just it's sky. It can keep changing as the sun is setting. So I want to add a little more purple and just deepen my color. So once my panel is dried, I just bring in a little more color and concentrate those colors in those specific areas. This is just like a child doing coloring. There is no proper way to do it. Just wet your brush and go ahead and create your twilight scene. After my panel is dried, I'm going to frame it with the gold mirror cardstock, for which I have taken this mix and match frames die set. You can also use nesting rectangles and create a small frame, or you could just die cut a gold cardstock with a rectangular frame, but I always want to do my bit for saving the environment and save trees, save paper, and this is how I save my precious gold mirror cardstock. So I am just going to need the outer frame, and that will be my matting, but I don't have to waste the whole gold mirror cardstock. It's not going to be even seen. So next I'm going to cut my panel, my beautiful emboss resist sunset twilight scene, in the dimensions that it will be just right for my golden frame. And I'm going to hide these dots of my die cutting, and I am adding a little film of glue and just spreading it and then adhering my panel onto my rectangular frame. That also brings me to this offer that you have till 1st February. If you're shopping at Altenew, and there are some amazing ways to shop. There is create your own bundle with almost 15% off, and you can add ISHANIFREE code name and get the glue, which is worth $9 free on orders above $79. More details are down in the description. And for the sentiment, I have cut this congrats from the versatile greetings 2 die set and cut a shadow with the mirror cardstock and congrats in black. I adhere it with glue and I mount my mirror gold stock, matting and my beautiful sunset scene onto a top folding black colored cardstock, and then I add congrats, which is mounted on foam tape. And to add a little bling, I have this beautiful mystic black stellar sequins which come in 6 different sizes. I have taken 3 sizes to add to my panel. These are perfect for adding to your shaker cards, and they're gorgeous. There's such beautiful sparkle to all these pretty sequins. And here we have our first card ready with the emboss resist technique. Quick and simple. And before we resume to our other cards, I want to share this that I am teaching a class at Altenew Academy. The class is called Timeless Botanicals and it features the upcoming February release. This class is available at early bird pricing currently till 6th February. So it's a wonderful time to join in. And you can find more details on the Altenew website, which I'll put down in description. And I hope you will join and enjoy the class. Just clearing a myth, you don't have to be an AECP participant to buy these classes. This class is thoughtfully designed for beginners through advanced crafters, making it accessible and valuable for everyone. Participants will learn how to confidently mix and match their supplies, and which will help them get most out of what they already own while expanding their creative possibilities. And also you can get the beautiful kit, which is part of the February release. Have you tried Jacob's coat? Well, I'm sure you would not want to wear Jacob's coat, but let's do some Jacob's coat. And I have here Nina Solar Crest cardstock, and I'm going to do some simple stamping. But this time I am going to add more colors. I start inking with Puffy Heart. I've taken a blending brush and I am going to color my berries that are part of this whole solid stamp with a brush. You can apply your mini inks directly also, because these are small ink cubes and they will cover all the berries, and you can wipe off the other places where the ink has gone. But even the brush works well. You may need to do it once or twice to intensify the color. You can see some ink on the other leaves as well, because I had not cleaned my stamp properly when I was trying this technique. Okay, so I have taken Green Meadows mini inks, and I am going to use the lighter inks first. But before I go and stamp my greens, I am taking Maple Yellow from Pocketful of Sunshine, and I'm going to add my yellow to few of the places on the leaves. I want some more color and vibrant color for my Jacob's coat. I need a colorful Jacob's coat. Okay, so I am putting the yellow, and then I add a little yellow for the bird that is perched on the branches too, on the lower belly. And then I put my impression of yellow. And then after my yellow, I'm going to add a little light green sweet leaf all over my leaves. At some places where I know I have yellow, I try to skip that places. For the second impression of the ink, it is easy because a little bit of yellow will still be there in your stamp. And then to bring all these two colors, the yellows and the greens, I add the lightest of my green, minty mint, and put it on my leaves. I will still try not to cover yellow, but the lighter green will let these colors mix together in a better way. A stamp wheel or a stamping platform makes stamping multiple times very easy. And you can add the colors that have missed, that you've missed stamping, and put some more color and add to your background. For the bird's upper body, I am using Tide Blue. I thought this was a nice color, a little bit of pop with the pink and the yellows, greens, a little light blue. And I just look at my panel where I feel the leaves have missed the places. I go ahead again with my lightest ink, Minty Mint, and stamp over it. So we need to get all our stamped leaves perfect before we get on to the next step. I get a little more pink for my berries and clean it off with a cloth where the pink has gone onto my leaves. And then after I have stamped my pink, I am just going to get my bird a little more dimension. For that, I am using alcohol markers. The first thing I do is I use the lightest blue to cover in all the gaps of blue that may be there on my blue stamping. After that, I get my darker blues and I want to create a little outline for my bird. With that, I make the feathers, the tail a little more prominent. I am taking the colors from the English Country Garden set alcohol markers. You can even use normal markers for doing this. Even watercolor markers will work for this. Just remember to keep it light first with the light blue, a light yellow, and then bring in a little more dimension with the darker colors. I also add a little beak and a small eye to the bird. And with the darker blue, I want to give some more dimension to the wings of my bird. At the places on your leaves where you feel the ink has not really come up very well, you can also get your pencil colors and fill in those gaps. I will also show you another way to fill in and make your leaves more dimensional. Now that we are doing stamping with solid stamps, you can easily do this. For that, I have taken a darker green color from the same set and I am going to do a little bit of ink blending with a micro blending brush onto the end of the leaves. So I am adding color where the leaves meet the stems or the beginning of the leaves. This will create more contrast for our leaves and give the dimension that will look more beautiful when we do the Joseph's coat. After I've done all the inking with the greens, the pinks, the bird is ready. Now it's time to finally do our main step, which is putting embossing ink on all of our beautiful inking. So you please go ahead, wipe off that stamp and then put your embossing ink, because I did not do that the first time I did. So I go ahead, put my embossing powder and then heat set it and trap all that ink. I could have called my video Ways to Trap Ink. That would have been fun. Just make sure that you don't have any stray embossing powder, because after this is the time when we are going to do heavy inking. So I just realized that I have been calling Joseph's coat Jacob's coat from the beginning of the video. Okay, so do you know the story about it? I actually had done a little research when I was making, I was planning for this video. I was like, why is it called Jacob's coat? I did not know. If you don't know it, then you have to listen to this. Quick. So the story is from the Old Testament that Joseph was Jacob's son, and Joseph was his father's favorite son. And Jacob gave Joseph a beautiful multicolored coat. So this coat is also called the coat of many colors. And this coat became a symbol of many colors, richness, contrast, and which is why this card making technique uses all these colors and is named after it. So I hope you don't mind. I'm sure Joseph will not mind that I've been calling his father's name since the beginning of the video. I'm so sorry. Oh God, this is hilarious. So now, because I want to say sorry to both of them, I am going to tear my coat in two, one for Joseph and one for Jacob. And now let's do the senior most coat. So Jacob's. For Jacob, we are going to do some watercoloring. So we've already trapped our ink. What we have to do is make the contrast, for which I am taking black from my watercolor palette, and I am going to put this black color on to my watercolor panel. And you see the magic of resisting the power to color. I can still not stop laughing about Jacob and Joseph. Okay, and I will let this panel dry and put another coat of black over it. You can also do some black ink blending over it if you want, but I'm going to keep it for the Joseph's coat. I wipe off the extra color that was there on my leaves, and now let's do Jacob's coat. So for that, I'm taking some dye inks. These are fresh dye inks that I've taken, and the big blending brush. And I start with the light blue. I take Tide blue color, and I am adding this Tide blue, the lightest ink, on the topmost part of my cardstock. So we have a gradient, an ombre inking for the background of the bird. So you see, we again have the resist technique at work. And for the lower 1/3, I'm using industrial diamond. This is a dark gray ink. You can use a darker blue as well. And these three inks now make a beautiful background for my lovely bird. And here we have two coats, Joseph's and Jacob's. I hope you like that. And now that we had so much work done for the panels, we have to make two cards. I love when I can make two cards from one panel. All the hard work put to use. How am I doing heat embossing and not doing my favorite way to emboss? Doing tone on tone heat embossing, for which I have taken a navy blue cardstock and treated it with anti-static powder. And the next step is simple. Put your embossing ink all over the stamp and then add my clear embossing powder over it and heat set. This tone on tone stamping and heat embossing and getting the darker, richer color from underneath your image, it is just, I love this. It is subtle, but it is so beautiful. This itself can make a beautiful card panel. When you want some quick cards, do this with your solid stamps. I add my panel onto a top folding white colored card base, and just to show you, you can just add a bold sentiment, like I have this die cut birthday in silver color cardstock from the Versatile Greetings 2 die set, and just this happy stamped above the birthday, and that will make a wonderful quick card. For adding a little contrast to my card, I am going to tear off the colored panel just lightly so that the torn edges show the white of the cardstock. And I'm going to add my colored panel in a way that the whole design is continuous. This is why we had the whole stamp stamped onto our dark navy card base. And now I add with a little foam tape my panel onto the right. For the sentiment, I have taken this lovely sentiment, wishing you a sky full of joy, and stamped it with starlight ink on a white strip of paper. And to embellish my card, I'm using the Crystal Moonlight Stellar sequins. And like I told you for my previous card as well, there are 6 sizes of these sequins, and I am going to use few of the sequins to embellish my card. And ta-da! We have a beautiful card with the Joseph's coat ready. Now let's go ahead and make something out of the Jacob's coat. You can get a chance to win a $20 gift certificate to Altenew by liking, subscribing and commenting which coat is your preferred coat, Jacob's or Joseph's. How can I not use the birdhouses? I love birds, and I can put birds everywhere. I have them in my curtains, on my cushions, on my saris, on my dupattas, and of course on my cards. So here I'm using this beautiful birdhouse from the die set, and I am using my scraps, some paper that were waiting for them to be cut. This is the perfect time to use your scraps. So I am using this light orange and I've die cut all the pieces as per the guide given in my die cutting instructions behind the packaging. For a little more interest, I am going to add some texture to the slates or the shingles of the roof by swiping a brown ink across my slates. I do a little bit of inking for the hole in my birdhouse with a little bit of industrial diamond that was left on the brush, and a light yellow cardstock for the outer panel of my birdhouse. And just because I thought there needs to be a little depth on the side of my birdhouse, I add the same brown ink onto the side of my birdhouse's the slates. I also assemble this sweet little flying bird. I cut them from different teal cardstocks and assemble it as given in the instructions. And I cut down some leaves and do some inking to the leaves. And with all of these ready, I am just going to assemble everything together on a top folding cream colored cardstock. I adhere the little stems, some leaves on the branch, and then add my little hook and birdhouse on a foam tape, and also add the little bird with a foam tape onto my birdhouse. For embellishments, I'm adding shimmering full stellar sequins. They are just perfect to match the beautiful teal colored bird that I have here and contrast to all the pretty colors that I have in my background. And here we have our Jacob's Coat card ready as well. Now you can tell me which is your favorite card amongst these two. And I'm going to pick up a winner after a week of publishing of this video. I hope you're enjoying the video because we have the last card and it is so cute. I'm sure you're going to try this. So just be patient for one more card, and now that you're here, why not watch all the different techniques together? I could have done this video in 2 different parts, but some of you don't even come to watch my videos, and I thought if I've put so much time, energy for creating these cards, I better put them in just one video so that you watch all of them together. So for the next card, I've taken watercolor paper and we are going to do some loose watercoloring on this panel. I spritz some water on my cardstock, wet my watercolors, and I'm going to create a lovely background with the blues, and I'm going to use yellow. And wherever the blue and the yellow will meet, it'll make a pretty green, which will imitate the foliage that I'm going to have on the foreground. So no rules for this coloring, just creating a little background for a dreamy look for my stamping. There are places where it's become a little green where I wanted sky. So I just blot out the color, the watercolor, and put a little blue. And now let's do some quick stamping. I start with forest fern. This is my green color, which I'm starting and stamping the whole foliage once with forest fern. The next color that I'm using is a yellow from the Pocketful of Sunshine. I'm using maple yellow. For the next impression, I'm going to add my little berries, and I add a little bit of puffy heart, and I'm also going to clear some of the stamping that has gone on the leaves with a little bit of paper or a cloth. And now next I again go add my greens. Remember how we added a lighter green in the first card? To bring all the colors together, I'm using eucalyptus ink for getting all my yellows and the dark greens together with eucalyptus. And I'm going to keep stamping till I'm happy with all the impression. Because it's a watercolored cardstock, it may take a little time because we have a lot of uneven surfaces on the paper. You can take hot press paper because that is smoother. I should have thought about that. Now that I'm doing voiceover, I'm thinking about it. But yes, you can use hot press paper for this technique as well, because we just need a little bit of background, which will be perfect. Now for the last stamping, I'm going to spritz some water on my forest fern. So this last inking has a little bit of water in it, and I still have a little ink on my plate. So I spritz a little more water on it and then stamp again. After that, I feel that my pinks are not as bright, so I add puffy heart a little more for my berries. And after that is done, you have to remember here, while stamping, I have not stamped the bird. And now, after all the stamping is done, I'm going to stamp embossing ink on it. Now, when I stamp embossing ink on it, I am going to make sure that there is no ink on the bird, because I don't want embossing powder on the bird. Now I'm putting the crystal clear embossing powder over all the image, and with brush I take off the powder that is on the bird, because I had used water and the water must have got absorbed there, at the image of the bird. There is some powder that is stuck here, but I remove it and then emboss it. And now we have all the ink trapped behind my embossing powder. So you could use the second birdhouse for this card. I actually had cut a birdhouse, but this was just getting disappeared with the similar colors in the background and the foreground. So I thought of doing something else. How's there an ISHANI card without a pink in it? So I die-cut some black and white cardstock. These are going to be my backgrounds, like the first layer of the birdhouse. And I want a little sturdy birdhouse this time. And I die-cut a little dark pink and light pink for the birdhouse body, some browns for my slates, the shingles. And I do the similar technique that I did earlier with adding a little texture with ink cube and get my little birdhouse ready. Now, the reason I chose this birdhouse for this card is, yes, because I want a pop-off birdhouse and a little bit of pink for my card, but there's more to it. Now, this die specifically has the first layer, which is a whole layer. The other birdhouse did not have that whole layer concept. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by the whole layer. I want to cut a window from my card panel, the first card panel, and the cardstock that I'm going to use as a card base. So I need a window. And to cut the window, first I temporarily adhere my card panel onto the card base, and I take the first layer of this birdhouse. This layer, this one, will create a window which will be the whole birdhouse. I add a little bit of tape to keep it at a position and die cut it. Now I need to die cut it twice, because with one run only the first layer of my cardstock gets cut. And I get a little boo-boo by while I remove this. Oh my god, there's a little paper tear, but we can fix it. Of course we can. And next time I run the die through my die cutting machine by adding the die again inside that window and cut out that white colored cardstock as well. And here I have my window. Now this is my aperture, and I'm going to have my little birdhouse peeping out of it. So this is the reason we added extra layers of the birdhouse's first layer in the back. I had temporarily adhered my front panel, but looks like because I put it through my die cutting machine twice, it is now stuck very well. So I just add a little more glue and stick my front panel onto the card base. Because I was using 300 GSM watercolor paper, this is quite a sturdy piece that I have here. So I add a little bit of foam tape, put glue all over it, make it very slick, and then add it through the aperture, making sure that my window closes and opens easily through it. Now I put glue onto it so that in case I have to move it a little, it's not stuck like very strongly. And now above this, I'm going to add my cute little pink birdhouse. But before that, I need to do a little bit of trimming because I have actually added 2-3 layers behind my birdhouse, and it's got a little bit thick and not easily openable. So just a very thin sliver of the outermost areas of the die cut I just trim them off, and then with glue I add my birdhouse. Also, I hope you just saw when I added a little bit of paint wash on my front panel, and then now I can also add a little bit of green markers marking. Or what I mean is that I go ahead and make some branches with the green marker, and I have die cut this other bird, and used yellow cardstock for it, and I want to make a sturdy body for it. So I again use the first layer thrice to make a sturdy body which will be mounted on top of the card base. I add my bird with a little bit of foam tape, and here my mechanism is working. You can bring the bird up and bring the bird down and put the birdhouse just behind your bird. For the sentiment, I have stamped on a light yellow cardstock a little note from the nest, and I add it with a little bit of foam tape. And I love this mechanism. It is so cute and so quick. Didn't you feel this was a quick card? Yes, I did speed it up. And what is a card without some shimmers? I have the shimmering pool that I'm going to add around my nest. And before I say bye, I have to invite you for my next workshops. If you're watching it before 31st January, you're most welcome for my January class. Please check my blog for the details. And my next workshop is on 7th March. And we are creating a beautiful farmer market vibes with the strawberry filled basket. And I'm going to talk about ink blending, and a real class is really fun. If you've not been for a free Zoom class of mine, I invite you. Please ask about it in the comments and I'll let you know. Thank you so much for stopping by. I had a blast creating these cards, and if you want to win the $20 gift certificate, please give me the answer of the question that I asked. And I'll really be honored if you chose to use my affiliate link to shop at Altenew. Thank you so much. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.